Lord, we just come before you now. And we thank you that you are at work in every age group of people who come to serve you, Lord. Thank you for the opportunity to celebrate your work amongst our teenagers tonight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Good evening. It's good to be with you tonight and to share a little bit about what God's doing in youth ministry over the course of this summer. And first, we're going to share a little bit about camp. So we had 5, 6, 7 camp and 8 through 12 camp. And 5, 6, 7 camp, we're going to hear a little bit tonight and then more next week. So come back next week and hear more about 5, 6, 7 camp because it's an event that spans both youth ministry and children's ministry. So 5, 6, 7 camp's theme was greater than, talking about how Jesus is greater than all of the things in life. And then 8 through 12 camp's theme was wrestling with hope and seeing that Jesus is the hope that we build our lives on. And so both of those camps were just very instrumental, not only in the life of our church, but also in the Kansas City district. And we have a few ladies here that are going to share a couple testimonies about 5, 6, 7 camp. So go ahead, when you share, can you just share your name and then go ahead and share your testimony?
Hello, my name is Olathe Westside. So at 567 camp, there were altars whenever we had like service. Okay, all services, morning and evening. So at the altars, a lot of people came down, and it was like a lot of people had problems, but then there were other people from a lot of different churches who we didn't know, and they came and prayed for them. I didn't know a lot of people there, like a lot, even some people from our own church, so I just went down and prayed. And then one of my friends, they were crying because something sad happened, and usually I'm funny and I'm not serious at all, but I had to be serious. So I told her stuff and I made her feel better, and it was depressing being there, but it was also fun.
Hi, I'm Alexis Contreras, and I'm gonna share about the songs that we sing. The songs were really powerful, and they got me to listen to more Christian songs than I do usual. So every day I'm listening to Christian songs, and it's yeah. So the songs were really important to me, but they were really good to worship to, and at the night service or morning, I don't know, whenever people went to the altars, it was kind of those kind of songs that just makes you cry.
Okay, I'm Brianne, and I'm going to do the question box. So we had a question box in the mornings where Pastor David would go into depth for all of our questions and try to answer them as best as he could. And it was really powerful because we got all of our questions answered, or most of them, and it was really cool.
Let's thank these ladies for their testimony. And then Isaac Rushing, who's a youth sponsor with us, he was our lone youth sponsor at 8th through 12th grade camp when everybody else was headed to mission trip in Fort Worth. He was driving the van there. And so he's going to share just a word from his perspective on 8th through 12th camp.
So I have volunteered a lot of time at CTR, Camp Table Rock, and had a lot of fun times down there just building things and watching things grow so that kids can come that summer and grow closer to God through encounters there and through just all the fun times that they get to spend with friends. And Rick always told me, he said, this is really fun to come and serve the Lord through working here, but you should see the amazing encounters when kids are here just changing their lives and giving them to the Lord. And I got to see that this summer, and that was amazing. He says, when I walk by after services and see the altars here, and there's puddles of tears on the concrete, and you can see and you can think of that kid's life was changed. That girl is now saved and she's serving the Lord, or this kid over here is now taking the word back to his family. It's amazing things, and I got to see that, and that was so impactful to me to watch the teams that I brought go down and give those things to the Lord that they were dealing with. And so I was just very thankful to see that side of camp.
Thank Isaac for his testimony. I almost fell off that chair right there. One of the really cool things to tag on to 8th through 12th grade camp is, so we had 17 who went there, and it was happening simultaneously with mission trip. So, but those 17 and then Isaac, when they got there on Monday for our mission trip, you could tell that they had had an encounter with the Lord. And it was just like a shot in the arm for us as we were getting ready to start our week serving on mission trip. And so we're just so thankful for that, and thankful for the ministry of camp over the summer.
Amen. He is able, more than able, to accomplish what concerns me today. is able, more than able to handle anything that comes my way. He is able, more than able to do much more than I could ever dream. He is able, more than able to make me what He wants me to be. He is able, more than able to do much more than I could ever dream. He is able, more than able to make me what He wants me to be. Amen.
All right, good evening. If I don't know you, my name is Jonathan McMurray, and I am the mission trip coordinator for Westside Youth Ministry. This year, I'm going to talk about just a little bit what our mission trip this year looked like, and just kind of try and give you a little picture of it here in a couple minutes. So there'll be some pictures up on the projectors there. You can kind of check out some stuff. So if you're laughing at them, I know you're laughing at the pictures and not me. So this year we went to Fort Worth, Texas. We took a total of 44 people. Honestly, I didn't know how this year was going to end up just because it's an NYC year, and it takes a lot of funds to go to NYC, so we didn't know where we were going to end up as far as people and people signing up and stuff, but this was actually one of the largest groups that we had to go on mission trip. So we took 36 teens and then 8 sponsors and adults. So the place we served at Renovation Community Church in Fort Worth, Texas. It's a small church of about 30 or 40 people there, and it's a Nazarene facility, but they actually share their campus with 3 different organizations. One of them is a funeral home, and then 2 other churches. So it's actually a quite large facility, but a small church. So Renovation just looks to meet the needs of the community there. Kind of what we did while we were there is our main goal was helping out with Camp Fuse. So Camp Fuse is, the state kind of sees it as a 9-week VBS is what the pastor told us. So they're not like a daycare or anything, but they provide child care during the summer to kids and parents, and just give a place of stability and just a place to come for parents who maybe can't afford actual child care, because we all know that can get pretty expensive. So and they were able to go, and the kids are able to go there either on scholarship or for very little cost during the week. So I mean, we're talking like a couple bucks a week or something. A lot of them come in the morning. Some of them have breakfast before they come, but they do serve breakfast there. And then they'll have lunch also there, and then they'll go home. So just kind of a typical day of what that looks like. Kind of what ours did. They have kind of like a block scheduling there. I already talked about it a little bit. They have breakfast, and then we come in and we have some free time. Our group, we kind of rotate throughout what we did. Our group, we were with I just forgot the ages. I think the 7 and 8-year-olds, kind of the younger kids, is what our group was in charge of, just kind of going along. And basically we were there just to kind of, just walk with the kids, just talk with the kids, just play with the kids, and just walk them from one activity to the next, and really just be something constant in their lives for that week, and just be able to serve there. So a typical schedule will kind of look like breakfast, and then we'd have some free time. After that, we go to the computer lab. So they'd have a computer lab set up with some computer games, and you go in. They're educational computer games, so people weren't just playing other stuff, but that they were actually learning and getting something from the games as well. So after that, our group would go to a craft time. So we'd spend time it could be just cutting stuff out of magazines and posting it, and then the leader would give a little lesson after it. But just spending some time when craft time, whether it be drawing or whatever else. So a couple of fun things that I had during the week is the career day. You can see that top picture right there. You see the police officers talking to them, and there's some. I know there's a cattle rancher that came in, and then EMT that came in. So they'd actually bring in career speakers and just talk to them about what their job looks like, and just kind of go in depth about what that looks like. That they do. So the police officers, they came in and talked to them, and they had their police cars open and just kind of you can just go in, check out all the equipment. You go sit in the back seat, sit in the front seat. So EMT was the same way. You'd open it up, talk a little bit about, and then you're able to kind of walk through the ambulance and stuff like that. So really awesome that they were able to just bring the career speakers in and just talk a little bit about that. So after that, we'd have a lunch, and then they'd also have a Bible hour. So since they're kind of not necessarily a daycare, but kind of more an outreach VBS type thing, they're able to just have a Bible hour and just kind of review stories and just kind of ask questions and whatever else with the kids. So all this time, we're broken up into groups. We have, I think we had 6 or 7 groups, and we're just walking along, like I said, with the kids just to that each hour, just rotating and just walking along with them. So let's see what else here I got. A couple of the other places we also served at was with neighborhood needs while we were there. Since we took 44 people, we couldn't all serve at one location, so we found another awesome organization to work with, which was Neighborhood Needs, and then Olathe Mesa Church of Christ. I actually did not go and serve at either of those locations, so I brought Sarah up to speak on those.
So my group and Charlene's group would walk down the street most every day. I was about a mile away. We just walked down to this other church. Renovation Community Church is really big on partnering with other churches and organizations in their community to meet needs that they're not able to. One of those was a food pantry, and Olathe Mesa Church had a large food pantry there. The Olathe Mesa Church I think the congregation's been there about 40 years or so. Their building's very nice. They've redone it not long ago, but they don't focus so much on that. I was really impressed that they had their very large church building, but then they had literally surrounded themselves with all these ministry outposts there. One of those was called Neighborhood Needs, the food pantry, and they also had a clothes closet. We helped out with the food pantry in the mornings, with helping to sort through food that had been donated. One morning they have distribution, so we got to assist with that, helping people push their carts through, pick out food items, load things up in cars. So our students really had fun helping out with that, just kind of seeing how that process went. At lunchtime, they had a lunch program as well through the YMCA. They had another outbuilding in the back that was a whole kids building that wasn't being used at that time, but there had been a need that had arisen in the community for having free lunches for kids. There was one woman that I met there named Rebecca. She and her 3 children lived in the apartment complex next door up until not too long ago, and she had gotten involved with the church, started coming to some of their meals that they had. Her kids were being brought to Sunday schools and things, and God had just started working in her life, and she was such a transformed life. Even like 6 months ago, God had really been working in her heart, and she just had this real big burden for kids who were living there in that apartment complex who needed something to do during the summer. There are a lot of parents who just, I guess, kick their kids out in the mornings and say, just go and play. In a parking lot in Fort Worth, Texas in June and July, August, that's just terrible. So she said she would see a lot of these kids just hanging out, trying to play with her kids and not being able to go back home. They were locked out of their homes. And she said, we've got to do something for them. So she started doing fun games with them, trying to feed them, bring them into her apartment. But as she got more involved with the church, she reached out to them and said, hey, can we have a facility? Can we have some room to do something for them during the day? So in the heat of the day, they would come in for lunch and play in a gym, play games, and we got to help out with that. It was the second week that they had done this program, so it was still very new to them, so they needed a lot of help. So those kids they kept us busy for sure during that time. And then in the afternoons, we would go back to the church building usually and help out with some projects around the church. They were getting ready for a VBS that they were about to put on. So they were very excited about that. There was a camping theme. Their church looked like a Bass Pro. You'd walk through there and there was just stuff set up everywhere. They were getting ready for that. But they had a lot of things that they needed cleaned, kind of behind the scenes. Like I said, it was a really nice facility. But their congregation, for as much outreach as they do, had really been shrinking lately. And they had a lot of things that just had been neglected, a lot of maintenance kind of things that were pretty simple, even just like a lot of cleaning projects. We cleaned up their nursery, did a deep cleaning there, cleaned tables and chairs. Just a lot of very simple tasks that weren't able to be done because they just don't have the ability to do that. They're focusing their time and energy on the ministries that they've been doing for so long. And so it was really neat to be able to bless them in that way, helping out with that. So that was just a little bit of what my group did. It was very different. We were away from renovation every day, going down there to serve at Alta Mesa. But really enjoyed that, really loved getting to know those people. They were very welcoming. It felt like home, honestly, serving with them. So it was neat to be able to bless them that way.
Thank you, Sarah. All right. I also got Olivia up here. Brought her up. I'm going to ask her a few questions. She can share a little bit about her experience and time there on a mission trip. So a few questions for you. Who was someone new you connected with while on mission trip?
So for me, I really connected with a lot of the quieter kids. I know a lot of people were like running around and playing basketball and stuff and connected with kids that way. But for me, I was always constantly at this little like coloring table and just talking with kids. And I sometimes ran around, but that's mostly what I did. But one kid specifically was this little girl named Kai. It was just really cool for me because, it was her first year going to this camp, and she didn't know anyone, and just being able to hang out with her and introduce her to like the other kids and help, her get to know other people and just grow relationships. It was a cool experience. Something I really enjoyed doing was, something about Kai is that she kind of has a couple speech issues, and a lot of people can't quite understand her. And I can personally relate with that because when I was younger, I definitely had like some similar issues. And so just being able to understand her, and I don't know why, but I could usually understand what she was saying, and just being able to help her, get what she, was trying to do, or help, get what she was trying to accomplish was really cool. And just to encourage her, because she was definitely kind of shy. And then, something like I really think with speech, you get used to it as time goes on. So I think like through this camp, the interns, they'll get used to what she's saying. Like I know one thing she constantly said, like, I need to do it, which I got that means I need to go to the bathroom. It's like I know that the interns, they're going to get used to it and she's going to be fine. But being able to help her through that first week was just something really cool to me.
All right, a couple more here. What were some difficulties that you faced, and how did God help you through it?
Well, the bus kind of broke down. Yeah, so like for trips recently now, as long as I've been here, it stops, but this time it really broke down. And so that's an issue. And just how God walked through that with us. Immediately, they called some people up. We just went over to this church, and they took us in for an hour or two, and we hung out there and played games with the people there. And then Snoo was like, yeah, come over to our campus, sleep in our dorms. We'll give you pizza. Here's the shirt. Here's shampoo. What do you need? And then the next morning, was it Bethany First Church? They were like, come to our service, and we were there. And then they were like, here's our church credit card. Go buy lunch. And then we were able to, get everything moving again, and we got to go home. But just in that time, when our bus wasn't working and we had nowhere to be and no food to eat, they just completely opened up their arms and took care of us.
Let's go with what were your expectations going into mission trip, and what was the reality like after you had been there a few days? Or
so I've been to one other mission trip, and it was half relationship based, whatever. And the other half was labor and stuff. And so this I knew was going to be all relationship stuff, and I didn't really know what I was going to be doing, but I thought it's going to be easier, right? How hard can it be dealing with kids? But then then it kind of turned out to be more tiring. It was like 7 or 7:30 the day started, ended at 5. That's 10 hours of kids wanting you to run around with them and play. And for 5 days, it was pretty exhausting and tiring. It was fun, but, I wanted to sleep. And so just going into that was extremely different, Some of us, we go to mission trip and we want that labor, we want to work hard, we want to feel accomplished, but I felt accomplished after this trip. And then also, just it was kind of hard to see, going into it, how you'd be able to see the differences you're making, and, would it feel like a normal mission trip? Would I feel good about what I've done? And I didn't know what it was going to look like, but afterwards, just seeing the small differences we made, it meant a lot, and I could see it.
Cool, thanks, Olivia. Just a couple things I took away from this mission trip. This mission trip, just as far as planning and stuff goes, we usually try and get to like a year out. We can like to know where we're going, or at least 10 months or so. This mission trip came very, very late notice. We had something in our back pocket that we could do if nothing else came across, but this one random email came across, probably Lisa's email, in probably January or February, and it just felt like God was just calling us to this place, just from the first email, and then email in Jordan, and then just kind of from there, just felt like this is where we're supposed to be, and just how God is in control and just put that together. So something else I took away, speaking of Jordan, that was the guy who I was working with planning like the whole time we're leading up to mission trip and stuff. Literally the first day we started serving, his wife has a baby. So this guy that I've been working with months, like emails back and forth and phone calls and stuff, and setting all this stuff up, and he's the primary guy on their end running the camp and stuff. So he's out for the week. So now we're working with Pastor Chris and stuff, just trying to, who's not normally in charge of this stuff. He's the lead pastor there, and Jordan's the associate pastor. But just we're all just trying to do the best that we can and adapt. But really, that we don't have to have a perfect plan. We don't have to have something can go wrong or whatever, and God can still make it beautiful. God can still use all the teens that were there to reach the kids, and just whatever else. So, and the other places that we served at with neighborhood needs in Alta Mesa. So, God, we can plan it, we can do whatever, and then a wrench gets thrown into it. But ultimately, God can still make good out of it, and we're able to just offer some stability and stuff to those kids. So. We'll have a few more testimonies. Getting ready to show a video, but I just encourage you. Our teens aren't going to come up to you and tell them about mission trip typically, so they're kind of shy like that. So ask them about mission trip. Any of these summer's events, ask them about mission trip. Ask them about NYC. Ask them about camp. So and make them tell you. You got my permission. Make them tell you some God stories in there. Make them tell you what they learned at camp or mission trip or whatever else, or recharge. So don't be afraid to come up to them and just talk to them and talk it through. So I think we got a couple more testimonies that we're going to see on video here that we took while we were at mission trip. So we'll go and show those. So thank you.
So one of my favorite experiences I've had this week was right after arts and crafts, we have group game. One of the group games that we play is kickball. I love it just because it's actually a time where kids are having laugh, have smiles on their face. We don't know what happens at their homes. We don't know what they go home to. So it brings joy to my heart just seeing them have a great time. And also I'm having a great time with them. So, it's always just fun having fun with kids and bringing smiles to their faces.
With this little girl that I met here. She was the only girl who only knew Spanish, and I immediately related to her, and it touched my heart because it reminded me of my past with not knowing the language and everything, and I think God brought me here to relate to this girl and help her through a very lonely journey here without anybody who speaks Spanish most of the time. So she's such an adorable girl, and I love her so much. Her name is Camila, and she's so sweet. And I've just bonded with her, even though I'm not working with kids. So it's just been an experience that I will never forget.
I've had a really fun time serving here and meeting all of the kids. My group had the 8 and 9-year-olds, and I really connected with this little boy named Edmund. He was super sweet, and he loves getting along with everyone, and it's just really cool to see how much he knows the Bible and how much God is working in his life and how I can be someone who can impact him. And he's kind of opened up to me, and it's just been really cool to see that he's getting comfortable with me and trusting me. And he's also teaching me some stuff, so that's really cool.
Now finish the work so that your eager willingness to do it may be matched by your completion of it, according to your means. For if the willingness is there, the gift is acceptable according to what one has, not according to what one does not have. So, I read that, and that just made me think, you just want to work however hard you can, no matter what you can, and then that way, other people and God will see it, and it'll just, it doesn't matter if you don't get it all the way done, but if you work as hard as you can, then that's what really matters.
It's been really fun working with the kids this week. We've met lots of great people, but however, some of these kids have come from troubled families, and it's been nice being able to help them out as much as we could and be able to give them the one-on-one attention that we need. A lot of the kids couldn't do the math when they were trying to play the games in the computer lab, but we were able to help them out and figure it out, and I think that was just really awesome, and that's one of the ways that God uses us to be able to do his work and speak for him.
So here at Fort Worth, we were working with a bunch of kids, which I thought was going to be hard for me and definitely put me out of my comfort zone. I didn't get to use power tools and build things and teach kids how to serve the Lord by, creating things and fixing things. I had to learn from the kids, and I had to learn how to step in and be a kid with these little ones that, their home lives are different, and they, may not have the structure or the stability that we all have. And just seeing our youth adapt to that taught me that I need to be adaptable and that I need to learn to love these little kids, even though it's not what I like to do. It's not my strong suit, and it's not what God has called me to do for my life, but he calls us to love. And I definitely learned from the teens how to love and how to show God's love. And it was just enjoyable to watch them step in and build those relationships with certain kids and kids that needed it, kids that had some needs, and others stepped in and just took care of them the whole time. And so it's just very cool to see their hearts and see the compassion and the love they had, and learn that that's what I needed in my life to bring here and serve.
All right, as we get ready for offering here, we want to remind you of a couple things coming up. September 8th will be our Faith Promise services. I think that's all day, isn't it? Is it morning and evening? So come and listen to stories from the mission field for that day. And then September 22nd, we'll be having a baptismal service. So if you've not been baptized yet, you're interested in that, find one of us here on staff, and we can point you the right directions for getting that taken care of. We'll go ahead and pray and receive our offerings. Lord, thank you for the opportunities to go and to serve you throughout the world, Lord. And for the chance for our teens to learn at such a young age what it's like to serve you in other places and in various types of ways. Thank you that we can come and give back to you what you've blessed us with to make those opportunities for service possible, Lord. In your name we pray.
Amen. I know we don't normally stand during offering, but let's go ahead and stand and stretch our legs just a little bit as we worship the Lord together. I may pass through the valley. One thing I know is you are with me. I may pass through the fire. One thing I know.
You know, that song is so appropriate because really, as we stand and talk to you about these 5 epic summer events, it's really the Lord that's been working in and through these things to make them all that they are. And so we just praise the Lord. So as you're hearing our testimonies tonight, I hope that's coming through loud and clear of how faithful God has been to our youth ministry this summer, everywhere we've gone. And as John was saying, even in the hard times where a wrench is thrown into what we were planning to do, God has been so faithful to provide exactly what we need, and he's growing us and making us the people that he wants us to be. So Rachel's already coming up. We want to share a little bit about NYC with you. You're good? I'm good. All right. She's good. You can feel free to have a seat there for a second. So NYC, click the next slide there. So this year at NYC, there are 8,834 students, sponsors, and volunteers and exhibitors together for meaningful times of worship, discipleship, service, and community. It's an event that happens every 4 years in the Church of the Nazarene. Nazarene Youth Conference is what NYC stands for. And this time around, it was in Phoenix, Arizona in July. Next slide. One of the things that we had an opportunity to do is to go and to bless the city of Phoenix. And in NYC's, the goal isn't just to go and consume from the city, but to go and to be a blessing to the community. And so our great leaders from USA Canada begin to meet with city officials, and they begin to ask the city, how can we partner with what your needs are in your community? And one of the things that they came up with was, we have a lot of students starting back to school just a month after your NYC. What would it look like if students, these 8,000 students, began to bring school supplies and backpacks for kids in need? And so that was gathered and that was done. It was called Packed with Love. Some of you gave backpacks and other school supplies and equipment, and you put all of that together with all the people that were there, and 6,000 filled backpacks were donated and by participants that have already been distributed into schools, and students are using those right now as school is back in session. So we just say thank you to God for his work and the generosity of folks. Another thing about NYC is not going to be a consumer there so much as going to be a blessing there, is there's a thing called Ministry with Others, where all of the participants of NYC go and partner with what God is doing. And so each NYC participants engage directly in servants projects that the city says, hey, here's something that you can partner with us in. And so with a lot of great organizations doing great work around Phoenix, there were, I think it was over 200 and some different service projects all over the city that people were engaged in, from churches to community organizations to things that were happening at the stadium in Phoenix that were packaged and sent around the world. And so there was this big splash of the love of God in the ministry that people participated in. Next slide. Actually, if you want to check out, the services were incredible. We had some amazing speakers. And in fact, that's anyone that would like to go and check those out, you can go to nyc2019.com, and you can see the full-length services of NYC. I encourage you to do that sometime if you're looking for a devotional time, if you're looking for just a really great message. Each of the speakers just presented an amazing message, and so you can go and watch that out on the internet. For NYC this year, from our local church community here, we took 28 teens and 6 adults participated in NYC from Westside. And so just a great crew from here representing us in the city of Phoenix, Arizona. Next slide there. And Rachel is up here because she's going to share a little bit about a story that just God kind of moved and impacted us. And so I'm going to let her share this testimony of how God was moving in kind of an unplanned way.
Okay, so NYC, it's a couple days long, and the last day is Sunday, and we left Monday, but Monday we woke up at like 4 a.m., so nothing happened on Monday. But on Sunday we had a morning session, and then we didn't have afternoon session, evening session concert like we had the other days. So it was over, and it was like a free day, I was like anticipating the free day because our hotel, like, we'd like been upgraded or something. It was super nice. And it had like a baby water park attached to it. And I was like ready for the water park. And it's like lunch, and we're about to be like released for free time. And Tom like gets up in front of us and he's like, "Hey guys," and I say, "No." And he was like, so we had, when we had been doing like our service project earlier in the week, which was on the schedule, it was like, you know, we were in this like really, really bad neighborhood, and there was tons of homeless people there, and we were serving them with this Catholic ministry that was in the town, and just like sitting in the bus, we could see all of these people that were just like walking along the streets with shopping carts and, you know, with bags and stuff. So Tom said that it had like really been working on his heart and had been working on the heart of some of the people in the youth group, and they wanted to go and use some of the money that we had and buy ice cream and Gatorade and water bottles and popsicles and like hand them out to the homeless people there. And he said, you know, "Oh, it's optional, you don't have to." And I was like, "That's amazing. It's optional. I don't have to." You know, because like I really wanted to go swimming. And then we did like a worship session like right before we got released, and I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna be like, nah, I don't really feel God telling me that I have to," which like, you know, that's like a legit thing. Not everyone went. But like it was in the middle of the second song, and I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden it was like a physical weight was on my chest, and I was like, crap. Because because I really, really didn't want to go, and it was like God was telling me that I had to, and I said no. But you know, I was sitting there and I was struggling with it, and then like by the end of the song, I said, "Okay, I'm going. It's fine." Like in my head, and it was like the weight like lifted off of me. So I was like, "Okay, I'm actually supposed to. This is good. I haven't just committed to something that God wasn't actually talking to me about, and I don't have a weird medical condition." And so I go, and I'm like a little bit reluctant, and we head out, and there's like so much food that we brought. Like we had like these little coolers, and they were filled with ice cream and water bottles, and we had like, you know, Gatorades that we were just like holding, and all of us were like, you know, kind of struggling to carry our stuff through the town. I was like, how in the world are we like gonna find enough people to give this out to? It was like my concern at this point. And I was like, we're gonna be like handing like out packages of things to people, like tons and tons of things, and we did not have that problem at all. It was like they started coming out of the woodwork, and they were, you know, going, people like would like, you know, get the water bottle that we were going to hand out to them, and then they would go and run off and tell some of their friends, and their friends would come. And there were so many people in this this area that I hadn't like realized the sheer number. You know, like you see a couple homeless people standing on a street corner, and you like isolate it to like that's where the street corner is, where they all are, and it's not. There's so many people, and it like killed me a little bit on the inside. And then we were like, okay, we're gonna do like a worship session. You know, Tom had said we were gonna do that, so we set up. And then there was this guy named Ernest, and he was the best. And he like came and like joined us and started singing with us. And there were other people, you know, that would like come up and kind of get close and listen, and they like didn't know the words to the songs, and they, you know, seemed interested, and they would come and maybe talk a little bit as they got their food. But this guy like he sang, and he knew the words, and he was like doing harmony, and like we all loved him. And then when we were in the pauses between songs, he would talk to us, and he asked if he could pray for us. And it was just the most beautiful thing in the world, because, you know, we had come thinking, oh, we're going to like serve this community, and we're going to, you know, give all these people food, and then they won't be hungry. And, you know, this guy showed us that, you know, it's not us bringing God into the community. God's already working in this community, and God already loves all of these people. And he like arranged for us to be able to see that, and that was super awesome. And Ernest was the best, and we love him. And, you know, it gives me a bit of peace of mind, you know, leaving because we know that there are other people working there and showing God's love to the people living there. That's it.
Let's thank Rachel for that. Thank you, Rachel. And at this time, I'm going to invite Sarah and Ashley to come up, and they're going to share with us a little bit about Recharge.
All right, so 1 week ago today, we got back from Recharge. We go every year to the same campground in Lucas, Iowa, in Jericho Hills. Many of you who are no longer teens have also been there, so you know what that's like. We've been there 20-some years, I think. So we went for a 4-day retreat that we do with the students, those entering 7th grade through those who have just graduated from high school. All come to Recharge. We had 62 teens this year, which is the most we've had in a very long time. I think we had 92 people total that we took. So we had a really, really good group this year. Our speaker was Jen Rosema. Just saw her picture up there. She's the middle school youth pastor at College Church, and it was great having her speak. First time we'd had a female speaker come to Recharge by herself as the speaker. We had a husband and wife team a couple years ago, which was really cool, but it was good to have Jen. And then Brandon Clough, who's the youth pastor at Grace Community, he came and led the band with a couple of his friends. So really good to have just some local youth pastors here connecting with us. And we had some of our students knew some of them, so really cool to have them. We did lots of fun activities at Recharge. I mean, it's a camp, so during free time we had a volleyball tournament, we had a carpet ball tournament. You know, we love carpet ball so much that we had a carpet ball table built that we have back here in the chapel. We play regularly. The water slide opened. It had been closed all summer, and they just got approval to open that up, so they tested it out on us one afternoon. That was fun. We had a talent show. We celebrated our graduates. Lots and lots of other fun things that we do at Recharge. And one of the things we got to do was tie-dyeing our shirts. You can see we're sporting our lovely Recharge shirts. Yep, handed everybody a white shirt with white print on it, and then we all got to make our own shirts. So every shirt is unique. Every single Recharge shirt is a little bit different, which is really cool. And we were talking about how it kind of looks like chaos as everybody's squirting their dye on their shirts and trying to make their shirts. But we just have to trust the process, that it's going to come out beautifully. So kind of in the same way, as we're looking at promises as our theme, that we trust that God's going to make something beautiful out of whatever this is coming out in our lives. So like I said, our theme was promises. We looked at the great and precious promises that God gives to us with our theme verse in 2 Peter 1:3-4. Every evening, we talked about a different promise. Jen had 3 promises that she specifically centered on. And each night, to remind us of that promise, we would hang up a different star. Our seniors and Isaac Rushing built these really cool stars that each night we would hang up a different one, and it had a little sign on it to remind us of what that promise would be. Thursday nights was that God is faithful. We talked about the story of Abraham and just how he had to trust God through some really dark times. Sometimes we doubt that God's faithful, but Jen really encouraged us to let God's promises light up the darkness. That night we went outside and we had family groups outside and got to sit out under the stars. It was the only night that was clear, actually, so that was a really cool gift to have, that we were able to be out there. And then we did some worship and music outside under the stars, too, before we went to bed. So just really cool to think about how God's promises were to Abraham. Friday night, we talked about how God can do anything. We talked about the story of Joshua and just how many fears he had as he was taking over leadership of the Israelites and going into the promised land. And God just wrapped him up in all these promises. God said that he's big enough to handle his fears. And Ashley's going to share a little bit about what she got out of Friday night.
Okay, so I'm Ashley, if you don't know me. Hi, nice to meet you. So Friday night was really great. A big kind of theme was fears and that God can kind of take care of them. Not kind of, he can. And so I just honestly, I didn't really feel like the message was connecting to me that well. I was kind of like, okay, cool, God can do anything, got it. And then we had this activity where we were supposed to write a fear down on these little wood pieces that were supposed to look like bricks, and then build a wall out of them. And I was like, what in the world am I going to write on this? And the only thing I could think about was school, which sounds really, really typical. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I was genuinely terrified to go back to school, and just really anxious about it, really nervous about it. And so that's what I ended up putting on my little brick. And we had the opportunity to get prayed for, and which is always a really cool thing when something impacts you, to just kind of on site have someone there to pray for you is really something really special about going to camp Recharge and stuff like that. So I got to go talk to Pastor Tom, and he prayed for me. And honestly, ever since that night, and just kind of recognizing that was such a big fear for me and was putting so much weight on my shoulders, it was that weight was lifted off, and I'm not really that scared about it anymore. So it's a really fun thing that God did for me the past weekend. So
very cool. Thank you. Yeah, just really great to see how those messages are impacting students, and how then we're able to take that back, starting up the school year, just coming back home, how that's still connecting. Saturday night, we talked about how God cares about everyone. And we heard the story of Jairus' daughter and the bleeding woman, and how Jesus is on his way to heal a very important man's daughter, but he stops. He sees this woman who would have been nothing. No one should have cared about her. But Jesus stops, takes time out for her. He calls her daughter. It was something that really resonated with a lot of students. In our family group, we talked about that quite a bit, that Jesus doesn't see her just as a problem or just a random person, but as a daughter, as someone that he cares about. And we see how the story goes from when Jesus is just going to heal the daughter of Jairus to, she's now dead. But now it becomes a story when Jesus gets to raise this little girl from the dead. Because Jesus took time out to care for someone else. I talked about what she would have been going through, what would have been going through her mind, and just a lot of the fears and the unknowns, and just the end of her rope. This woman who had been bleeding for so many years and needed that special touch from Jesus. And so in a response time, Jen invited all the youth workers to stand up around the rooms, and for students then to come and to receive a hug from Jesus, basically. We got to be the arms of Jesus, wrapping around our students and just whispering what God says of you, that you are loved, you are valued, you are important. I care about you. And just how much the students responded to that, saying, I've never felt the love of God in such a way before. Just in such amazing ways as this physical touch of you being the arms of Jesus wrapped around me in these ways. Afterwards, we had some time for testimonies, and that went on for a very long time. It was just so cool to see the ways that God had been working in lives so far at Recharge. And then continuing with that, so we talked about promises all weekend long. Jen encouraged us to find a promise. From Thursday night on, she had a list of promises for us to look at and encouraged us to look through these, look beyond that. But just a few of those promises really were standing out to students. Ashley, can you tell us about your promise and what you're taking away from Recharge?
Okay, so the first night we were there, we got this sheet of paper, it was front and back, and just had a list of kind of things that you would say, and then what God would say about that, and then it gives you kind of a verse to reflect on, which we were encouraged to do throughout the week, and try to memorize the verse, which was really fun for me because I never grew up doing quizzing or anything like that, so I've never really memorized Bible verses like that, so that was a fun thing. And just a really great thing to look back on throughout the week. So leading up to Recharge, I just kind of felt like I hadn't really felt God's presence in a while. Like I knew that he was there, but I wasn't really like feeling any type of connection that I usually would. And so there was one promise, and it's what God would say is that like if you come to him, then he will be there and that he'll show up. And that was just so simplistic to me, and just like, I don't know, it was just like the truth, you know, like when something just hits home and it's just so true. And so I was really reflecting on Hosea 6:3. It was like the verse. So I had that memorized for a minute, but I kind of forgot it. So if you want to look that up, it's a good one, I promise. I promise. So yeah, and it was just really encouraging to like realize that, like have that verse to look back on, noticing throughout the week all the ways that God had been there for me. And I just feel like that was a big theme for me the whole week, is just little things that God was just like giving me a pat on the back, like, hey, I'm here, like I got you. And so it was really cool to have that verse to like reflect on when little things like that in the week would happen. I was like, oh, wow, like God's like really here with me. He's really like walking beside me. So that was really cool. Yeah.
Amen. Thank you. Yeah. So everyone got to take home those promises. Everyone wrote down what their promise would be. And so Jonathan already told you guys to bug students about mission trip stories. So while you're doing that, also ask them, what promise are they clinging to? You guys all got to interact with these different promises throughout the weekend. Those are things to take home with you, to cling to. Jen talked about how that can become a life verse for you, how that becomes something that you're going to carry with you. And in hard times, in good times, in times when you can't see what's going on at all, still clinging to that, trusting in what God has said, learning to rely on that, what God has given to you here at Recharge. So I really encourage teens for you to pull those out again and keep reminding yourself of that, and to share that with others. And that's something that we can hold on to in our lives, those promises that God's given to us. So thank you all so much for praying for us, for helping to support students. And I hope that you do continue to ask them about what God's doing in their lives and what that promise is that they're holding on to. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah and Ashley, for sharing that. Well, I hope you've got just a small taste. It's like when you go to Cold Stone and you get the little taste spoon. You've got a little bit of taste of what God has been up to this summer in our youth ministry. And as Sarah was saying, I want to thank you so much, because we're not just a community here. We are the sons and daughters of the living God. And we are family. And God is making us this people together. And so your prayers and your support and the way that you give your time and your treasure and your touch and your prayers and all of those different things, they really matter. This is my 13th recharge in a row with Westside Church of Nazarene. I can't believe it. And 12 mission trips in a row. And yeah, sure, you can clap for that. You really didn't need to clap for that, but thank you for that. I appreciate that. But the most important thing that I can say over all of these years is just how faithful God is to continue speaking to our hearts, no matter what our age is. And I'm just so proud of every one of our teens for hearing the call of God in their life and listening for the gentle whispers of love that God is speaking, whether it's a hug from a sponsor or helping a little kid on mission trip, or just being silly on the blob and God just encounters you when you're on a boat at summer camp. God is just so faithful to encounter us wherever we go and wherever we are. And I just hope that tonight, as you leave this place there and you turn on the news tonight at 10 o'clock and you watch all of the stuff, I hope that in your heart that God will remind you that he is at work, bringing out the God colors in the world. That's why I love this shirt. The shirt was blank and white. It was white on white. Not a great shirt to wear around, really. But when we got to put dye in it and color in it, and now it's just bursting with color, and it's hard to not recognize somebody that's wearing it. And I think of the same thing when I think of what God is doing among us. He's bringing out the God colors in our lives in lots of millions of different ways, some that we can tell about and some that we don't even know until the Lord makes all things new and we're like, oh, I see it now. I see it now. So thank you for being faithful. I also want to just say a super big thank you. There's several people who are the backbone of summer youth ministry, and so I want to give them a shout out. And so I want to say their names, and as I say your name, if you would stand so that we can see you, and then I just want to say thank you on behalf of our whole church for you. So Jonathan McMurray, our mission trip coordinator. And stay standing. He's already standing. He knew I was going to say this, right? Sarah Neufeld, our recharge coordinator. She's also known as the Recharge Lord. I think it's the only person that has the title Lord in our youth group, which is, I don't know, ask her about it. And then Becky Livengood and Tina Livengood, they made all of our food at Recharge for 92 people. They saved us over $1,000 on our budget with the food and the things that they did. Lisa Dutton for keeping our funds and our fundraisers and all our finances in order. Isaac Rushing for being that one youth worker that said, you know what, I'll drive that van to Table Rock for 8 through 12. And then all of our youth workers, if you are here, would you stand? All of our youth workers, no matter if you went on a summer event or whatever, stand up, youth workers. Stay standing, please. I want you to take a look at these folks. These folks sacrificed so much this summer to be with us, to love us, to care for us, to leave their own families behind, and to donate so many hours to us, to hang out with us, to share a cup of water with us, to play games with us. To the most important thing, all of these folks around the room, is their symbols. They're symbols pointing to Jesus and the reality that God is making all things new, and he's bringing out the God colors. And I'm so thankful and appreciative for our youth workers, without which we could not do summer stuff. And so I thank you so much, each of you, from the bottom of my heart. It's a blessing to serve with you. And I just pray that God would continue to use you and mold you and make you the person that God is creating you to be. You are making a difference in our lives and in the lives of Westside. So thank you. Let's thank them. And I really appreciate there are so many parents in the room who are so faithful to pray and to encourage youth workers and to encourage myself. And so I thank you so much, parents, for your love and dedication to your kids, and not just your kids, but the kids of Westside. It is a blessing, and it's an amazing thing that God is at work doing here. For so many years, so many decades, God has been faithful to do so many wonderful things through our church and youth ministry. And we truly are blessed for that. And so I just thank the Lord for what he's blessed us with. It is a gift. And so we just want to continue serving the Lord in that way and continue raising up new generations who love and serve Jesus. Well, would you stand with me tonight? We're going to close with a benediction, only it won't be a spoken benediction tonight. It's going to be a sang benediction. A sung, a sang, a sung. There you go. It's better. It sounds better. All right. It's going to be on the screen. And what I want you to do is I want you to grab the hands with your neighbor there. And if you can reach across the aisle, make sure nobody is left without a hand. It's very important. It's just an image of who we are, the body of Christ. God has made us a people. We weren't a people before, but God, look around the room. God has made us a people, and we're thankful for that. And so this song just reminds us that God keeps growing us in grace. Grace after grace after grace. So let's sing this together. you grow in grace and in the knowledge of our Lord and Savior. My friends, may you grow in grace and in the knowledge of Jesus Christ. To God be the glory, now and forever, now and forever, amen. To God be the glory, now and forever, now and forever, amen. I pray tonight if we learn from one another, may we glorify Him. That if the Lord should bring us back together, may we be in His arms till then. Sing it out like you mean it, Westside. To God be the glory, now and forever, now and forever, amen. To God be the glory, now and forever, now and forever, amen. Now and forever, amen. Shake it out. Give somebody a hug or a high five. Bless them. Have a great night. You are dismissed.